Hello, this is Don White, the Superintendent of the Troy 30C School District. This is the first session of what I am calling board briefs. Recently, the district was criticized for not providing enough information in advance of what the Board of Education would be discussing at their upcoming meetings. I didn't take the criticism personally, but I reflected on how we might be able to provide more information to our families and community in advance of the board taking action. Please understand, I won't be able to cover all topics in the board briefs, but it's an attempt to provide additional information. The board briefs provides an overview of the topics that will be discussed at the upcoming board meeting. It's certainly not intended to be an in-depth analysis of any particular topic. However, it is intended to be a listing of topics that will or may be discussed. As you can hear and see, it's not a polished audio or video recording, but rather my ramblings, if you will, on what will be discussed at the upcoming meeting or is being discussed by the Board of Education. The first board brief is an overview of the Troy 30C Board of Education monthly meetings format, and I'm going to use the agendas from May 2013 to provide an overview. The Board of Education has two meetings each month. The first one is called the Committee of the Whole. The Committee of the Whole provides an opportunity for the Board of Education to discuss topics that are pending or are on the agenda for that evening. First thing is the President calls the meeting to order. They review the regular meeting agenda for that evening. By the way, the Committee of the Whole meetings start at 5:30, and they're in the conference room typically of the board district office. Oftentimes we will have a closed session, but it just depends on how much time we have and the topics that we need to discuss. Closed session is only for the Board of Education and administrators, and it is allowed by law for the board to discuss topics that are related to litigation, land acquisition, negotiations, student disciplinary cases, and to consider information regarding the appointment, employment, or dismissal of an employee or officer. Basically, the performance of employees. Each month, I provide the Board of Education an agenda for topics that we're going to discuss in the Committee of the Whole. Sometimes other topics do come up, and that's fine. We don't have to have every topic listed because these are only discussion topics, and except for those topics that will be acted on that evening, which are on the other agenda that I'll get to in a few minutes, the Board of Education will not be taking any action on these items. Again, except for the items that are on the agenda for that evening. As you can see on the screen, we typically have an agenda review that's very brief, just to see if there's any questions by board members of any action items that they're facing that evening. In May 2013, and that's what we're looking at, is the actual memo that I provided the Board of Education. We talked about FML leaves and an attorney's advice on how we should post or list FML leaves. We also discussed Shanahan proposed TIF district, which, if approved, will be a TIF district at Route 6 and 55. The Board of Education discussed that, and I provide them with some background on the topic. The board also discussed the dress code, and I wanted to have a conversation with them about the dress code compliance and what I learned from the district attorney. So I provided them information about that, and we held a discussion about that topic. As you can see, that's all the topics, and then each time there's information that supports the topics that we're discussing. So the first meeting, as I've just reviewed, at 5:30 p.m. each month, usually the third Wednesday of the month, is the Committee of the Whole. It starts at 5:30 in the board conference room. Once that's over, then we move into the regular meeting of the Board of Education, and I'm providing an agenda on your screen. Make it a little larger so you can see it. Once again, it's not a polished video, but it is something that you can follow along with as I speak. So at 7 p.m. we begin the regular meeting. You can see we start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Then we have roll call and establishment of a quorum. One side note that I should mention. While the Board of Education meeting is a public meeting. It is the board's meeting. It's their time to get together for the business of the district. Therefore, even though it's done in public, it doesn't mean that it is the public's meeting. It's actually the Board of Education's meeting. So they establish a quorum, then they review the agenda and they approve it if with any changes that might need to be made. Then there's a forum. Typically we have the recognition of students. Almost every month during the school year we have Students of the Month, and then we have special recognition for some teachers and or students that participated in different activities in the district or with athletics. Then there's a time for comments from the public. This is where, if you're interested, you could come and speak to any topic that the district has ongoing or that you'd like to have a conversation with the board. I say that loosely as far as conversation goes. Typically what happens is the board will listen and take input, but they're not in a position to debate the merits of or to answer any questions. If you do have questions about the district, you're strongly encouraged to get a hold of me, and I'll gladly help you with any resolution we need to an issue that you're having, if at all possible. After comments from the public, we have the district office quick reports. Those are administrators in the district office which provide an overview of their area of expertise and the things they've been working on. Then the consent agenda. The consent agenda are items that really don't take deliberation. They happen every month. Such things as minutes, the board gets those in their packet and they can review those in advance of the meeting. The bills that need to be paid, invoices, any grants that we've submitted that need approval from the board. And then each month we have destruction of closed audio sessions per the Open Meetings Act. Any one of these items can be pulled from the consent agenda and acted on separately, but these are typical things that don't require a lot of debate or a lot of discussion, and so they're under the consent agenda. After the consent agenda, we may need a closed session during the meeting. Typically that's related to personnel items on the agenda, but sometimes we have other topics that we may need to discuss, and if we did not get to the closed session during the committee of the whole, then we will actually hold it during the regular meeting. And then the board moves into the action items. We typically have personnel items, and we have several of those: retirements, resignations, appointments of certified staff, appointments of ESP, which are support personnel, and we have appointments typically of extra or co-curricular employees. In this case, these are for the following year. We have appointments of at-will substitute employees, and we oftentimes have a long list, so we attach them to the agenda as Appendix A. And we have requests for unpaid leave of absences. And in this month, during the month of May, it's typical that we grant tenure for fourth-year teachers. We re-employ our third-year teachers. You can see a long list of those on the screen. We re-employ second-year teachers. We re-employ first-year teachers, meaning they become second-year teachers. And then we have some people that are working part-time for us. And so each year they're re-employed as first-year teachers because they didn't serve enough days to become a second-year teacher. It requires certified staff need to work 120 or more days to become a full, or to have served a full year. So we have some people that have not worked that many days, but we do want their services again the following year. In the case of this agenda, we had a recommendation for dismissal of an employee, so we covered that. Then we had a resolution for reduction in force of a half-time social worker. This is related to budget reductions that the district is going through. We had a resolution for reduction in force of a half-time administrative assistant, again due to budget reductions. The board discussed and approved a 10-point grading scale. This comes in line, or brings us in line, with the Manuka High School and Joliet West, actually the entire Joliet High School district. The board approved a food service contract with Preferred Meals, and this happened to be the same vendor that we have. Unfortunately, we only had one vendor. We're glad, though, that we did have the one vendor. We're very pleased with what the Preferred Meals provides for us. Then the Board of Education approved the 2013-14 school year student parent handbook. We discussed and have been discussing for a couple of months the administrative and non-union salaries for the school year, and the board approved those. And they approved a WBO Geography Club. Actually, we reduced a club and then added this one. What we do annually is we review the participation in each of our clubs and make a determination if we want to continue those clubs. In this case, we actually dropped a club and then added the Geography Club, hoping that we'll have more students participate in this club. And then near the end of the agenda, the Board of Education has suspensions report. It's a confidential report they receive, and if there's anything I need to highlight, I do that. And then I have a superintendent's report. In this case, I was just providing some mandatory training that they need to do as part of a new law. And then the Board of Education discusses letters and communications that may have come from the community and or parents, and then any questions or information from board members. And then there's another opportunity for comments from the public on any agenda items, or actually the Board of Education at that time would take any comments from the public. And then the board looks at their advanced planning of things that are coming up. And then at the very end of the meeting, we list another closed session. Sometimes we have topics that the board needs to discuss, and if we don't get that done during Committee of the Whole, but it's not related to the agenda, we hold a closed session at the end. That's better because then anyone that's attending the meeting and wants to hear agenda items does not have to wait until the end of the meeting. And then the board adjourns. So you can see the structure of the meeting. There's 2 meetings for the Board of Education. There's the Committee of the Whole at 5:30, and then they have their regular meeting at 7 p.m. Each of them have agendas. I provide topics for Committee of the Whole, and then they take action items during their business meeting at 7 p.m. Hopefully the board briefs is going to be an opportunity for me to provide an overview of what the board will be discussing at their upcoming meeting. I'm going to try to get this done perhaps over the weekend prior to the meeting. So if the meeting's on Wednesday, I'll try to get this posted on Saturday or Sunday if at all possible. Just depends on timing of my work schedule. If you do have questions about any of the items, you're encouraged to send an email to dmail@troy30c.org. I'd also encourage you to follow us on Twitter. The address for that is @ or the @ symbol, Troy30c. And the last thing is, I'm going to be posting these to the website so that you can watch these on a monthly basis. Thank you and have a great day.